There's absolutely nothing worse. You take on a board and train client, you take their dog into your own home or your facility, you work your backside off, you make sure that the dog's performing as it should be, you do your go home lessons, probably even some follow-up lessons, and then in the days or weeks following the training, the clients ring you up moaning that the dog isn't behaving itself. It's frustrating, annoying, and it makes you feel underappreciated. But worse than that, it can cause fallout between you and the client and ultimately lead to the training not working the way it should have done, which in turn can lead to bad reviews or bad word of mouth, none of which we want for your business. And whilst we all know it's not fair for that to happen because you've done the work, it still can happen. Well, I want to share with you today a way that you can eliminate that happening for good and make sure that you've covered your arse for the odd occasion when it still happens. Here's the issue. People wanting board and train typically fall into one of three categories. Number one, they've tried to train their dog, they've failed at training their dog, and they've got nothing left emotionally to give. Number two, they don't have the time, the skill, or the inclination to do the training, and so they want to send it away for training. Or number three, they simply have the money and would prefer to pay the professionals. Now, it doesn't matter which one of those three categories they fall into because all of them are susceptible to picking up the dog at the end of the training, taking it home, and then contacting you, moaning that the dog isn't behaving like the robot they thought they were going to get. So here's what we're going to do about it. And this is an approach that I've used thousands of times to cover my backside from this problem arising inside my dog training business. And the place we deal with it is right at the beginning of the process when they make their first inquiry. Most board and train clients have already decided that they're going to want to send their dog away for training, and it presents us a perfect opportunity to do what I'm going to explain next. When we're in those initial conversations with them, instead of letting them direct you in the route they're going to go, you instead try to downsell them into one-to-one training. And the reason that you do it is 99% of them are going to immediately respond and tell you they don't want to do one-to-one training, they need board and train because they don't have time to train the dog. And when they say to you, I don't want one-to-one training, I don't have time to train the dog, you say to them, well, in that case, I'm not sure that board and train is going to be the right option because you're going to need to keep the training going when the dog comes home, and that's going to take time. At which point they'll say to you, that's not going to be a problem at all. We're going to have the time to keep the dog trained. We understand that we're going to have to do that. You say to them, oh, that's absolutely fine then. It's definitely going to work if we do board and train, so long as you understand that the dog isn't going to return to you like a robot. And they'll say, oh yeah, of course we understand that the dog's not going to be a robot when it returns. And then you take their deposit and you get them booked in for board and train. By doing this with all of your board and train clients, not only does it mean that the chances of them ringing you after the training when the dog's gone home dramatically decreases, it also means that if it does happen, you're in a position where you can immediately say to them, don't forget that we spoke about this at the beginning of the process and I pointed out that the dog wasn't going to come home a robot and you were going to have to do your bit to maintain the training. By following this process and reminding them of that part of the conversation that you had right at the beginning of the process, you completely change the dynamic of what's going to happen moving forwards. And it will put the client in a receptive state rather than one where they're blaming you. So remember, next time you get an inquiry for board and train, before you sell them the board and train, try and downsell them into a one-to-one, wait for them to object, and then point out the fact that the dog isn't going to be a robot when it returns home.